Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 12 of the Inside Sports Podcast. As of course, with the DE capitalized. We got Cole, Joey, and of course, Jordan. He's back.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's happy for that. We're going to catch you guys up with some dogs to the vet real quick. Women's basketball came off a huge win at home against Chicago State. Now, granted, Chicago State's 0-9. They might even be 0-10. I honestly don't know. Yeah, 0-10. Little rough. The Cougars are definitely struggling on the season, but we set a new record for most points in a game scored with 115. Ashley Jones really put on a show with nearly 30 points. I believe she finished with either 28 or 29. Really, really great game. I'm glad to see that we're gaining momentum on the season with this year's team. Hopefully we'll be able to get our feet under us a little bit so that we can actually start building on something as opposed to, where we were at earlier this season after the first loss where we were like, oh boy, what does the season really have in store? We're going to be home again this week against Tennessee State. They're currently sitting at 4-3. I don't know whether to project a win in this situation, but, it's going to be good to get another test under our belt.
Yeah, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I do remember calling out last in the podcast that we do have that offensive potential and everything, and then we just break the record for points.
There you go.
So,
yeah.
I am him, I guess, for a week. But, yeah, Ashley Jones and Aja Holmes have really impressed, at least in that last game. Aja Holmes seems like the one that's our girl beyond the three-point line.
Yeah.
She's nailing most of her shots beyond there. So I think that's a really good sign offensively. I'd like to see a little bit more defensively. But, progress is progress.
Exactly.
We did what we needed to do in that game against a team that we should have won by that much, I guess.
Yeah.
So
in all honesty,
I just hope it's a spark of momentum, I guess.
Yeah, and this is one of those games, even though it's Chicago State, who, by the way, has great uniforms. I don't know if you guys saw the uniforms. It's
they are
like
good
the
uniforms.
South side on it, the green accent. That's the only thing you can say.
They are good uniforms.
That was the best part about their team. But no, this game is good because it can give you confidence, heading into these next few games and before conference play starts. Obviously going up against Tennessee State, probably a better team than Chicago State. But we have confidence, and hopefully we can continue that, hopefully get some players back as well as we head to the stretch where it'll get pretty tough in Missouri Valley Conference play. And even though most teams in the Valley probably know we aren't the same team as last year, we still won the conference in the regular season. So there's that target on our back. But I'm pretty excited to see what Callie Bonwhite has in store.
Yeah, we kind of have that potential of like somewhat of a sneaky kind of wild card team. We're almost like where the Raiders are currently sitting at in the NFL right now. Where even though we, don't have the brightest record under our belt, Derek Carr and Devontae Adams could still combine for, Ashley Brown and Aja Holmes could still have a really good game. Like, we have a lot of those kind of pieces. For men's basketball, we went 1-1 this week. We beat once again, Evansville, not exactly always the top of the Missouri Valley Conference, but it's good to get our first conference win. That is our first conference win, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Get that. And, we won it handily. We did a really good job on the court. Now, we lost to St. Louis on Saturday, and, it is kind of a bummer, beating a good Oklahoma State team. That was when I was really like, okay, this is like a serious team here. But we have to remember, St. Louis is a very, very good team, very, very good basketball squad this year. There's been talks that they could even get an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament, even if they don't win their conference. The A-10 is super loaded, and St. Louis is a super, super good team. So even though it was kind of a demoralizing win, we still went there. We still played them tough for those, I guess it's like 2 hours. I was going to say 40 minutes, but yeah, it's 40 minutes. That's how much is on the game clock.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're sitting at 5-3 overall. We're 1-0 in the Missouri Valley. You've got to feel good about where we're at right now. It's definitely trending up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just wonder, because one of the questions we were asking earlier this year is, who's that third guy? And I think Xavier Johnson has started to emerge as that guy. He's scored, it was 20-some points in that last game against St. Louis. I have him down here as 14 against Evansville. I think it's safe to say he has potential, at least. I think he got newcomer of the week in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Yes, he did.
So that's just great sign of progress for a newbie that, someone on my words, we're going to cut this out. I think it's a great sign of progress for just a newbie that I think has a lot of potential just on our team.
Absolutely.
I was wondering if maybe we're going to start getting too reliant on Damask, and I think we kind of did that in this last game against St. Louis. He didn't have as much playing time, but that's like granted because this past week we were kind of like relying on him so much. He had so many points scored last week's game. I can't remember against who. It was like 30-something again in that second half comeback with Lance Jones. I can't remember.
Was it Cal Baptist in the
Yeah, it was
SoCal
Cal
Challenge?
Baptist.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was
that's
gonna
what
say.
it was. But yeah, I mean, he was just so gassed from those games. I totally see why he might not have had as much playtime this past week. And then I have down here Cade Horniker watch. He's getting a little bit of playtime every game, it seems like. I know he was thrown in there in that St. Louis game. They were trying to get a defensive stop really quickly just to get some momentum back, but I think he only finished with like just the 2 points or whatever. I didn't really see as much out of him as I wanted to then, just in the like 4 minutes of play, but I mean, it's still like just 4 minutes of play. What are you going to do about it?
He's
you know?
super early in his career.
But I want to keep an eye on him just the rest of the year still. I want to keep this the thing, the Cade Horniker watch.
And these early season tournaments, we just had ours in California. Some teams went to Hawaii. Some teams went to much different places, Bahamas, for example, far away from home. Coming back from those is always tough. Like, jet lag is a real thing.
Yeah.
We played a couple games back to back there. So it's always tough, especially for a team that's trying to get that chemistry and that depth. But we do have that depth in the scoring department. You guys just talked about Xavier Johnson. Maybe it's one of those things where, okay, Marcus is 1, Lance is 2, Xavier's 3. Maybe it's just whoever's hot on that night, keep giving it to him. And Xavier's the hot hand right now, so I'd say just keep giving it to him. He's the experienced guy, and then you can get guys like Marcus and Lance that more what I would call controlled volume, as opposed to just saying, okay, you got to take the ball and score. Have them off the ball, have them setting screens or whatever, getting open for those set shots, if you will. So I like the direction this team is headed. In a stretch now, we're going to have a lot of home games in a row, so that'll be really interesting to see if they can kind of keep this momentum heading in conference play. Obviously, getting our first game this week, so it'll be really interesting to watch, and I'm really, really excited.
Yeah, definitely a really good team this year. Xavier Johnson has been awesome for us. It was a great pickup from us. I believe he came from George Mason, if I'm correct. So yeah, that's been a good one. As he alluded to, we have the start of a 4-game homestand. This week we have a really tough test against another conference opponent in Indiana State, who's currently sitting at 8-1 and 1-0. So this isn't the Indiana State that we've been facing for the past couple of years. This is a really, really solid team, and we'll really have to show up for this one. But then we get Alcorn State, who's currently sitting at 3-6 on Saturday. So even if a tough loss happens against Indiana State at home, which honestly I'm not expecting, the dog pound is going to be there and it's going to be loud. But even if, we'll be able to bounce back, I believe, against Alcorn State that Saturday. So
Absolutely.
that's all for Dogs at the Vet. We unfortunately have no SalukiSpace for you this week, but we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the Told You So segment. So far this year for college football, I'm sitting at 27-20 with a roughly 57% correct pick percentage. It seems like every single week I go 3-2, which is why I'm sitting at 57%. This week I called the Utah upset. It was a perfect spot for Utah, and guess what? This guy was on it. Unfortunately, Kansas State upset TCU, which really ruined that pick for the week. I honestly thought TCU really had that game, but then Kansas State just pulled a Kansas State-like win. I mean, I did say that, too. I said this is a perfect Kansas State spot. Georgia beat LSU. That one was going to happen. I mean, there was no way that LSU was going to be able to pull that one out. And then I should have picked Clemson. I honestly don't even know why I went with UNC. I've just been in love with Drake May ever since the beginning of the year when I saw him put up like 58 points on Appalachian State and just do it all by himself, But Clemson really took it to them. They won, I believe, 39-10. And then Michigan beat Purdue. I think we all expected that one as well. So once again, I went 3-2. But for now, we've got our playoff picture in place finally. We have all of the bowl games ready. And so for this pod, we're going to pick the New York Six. A couple games I feel like I should touch on because this will be our last pod for a while because, winter break and finals and all that stuff. Now, the Navy versus Army game is going to be this Saturday.
Shout out.
Tune in. Support the troops, all right? Support the troops. Whichever camera it is. Support the troops. I believe Navy will win. I honestly don't even know.
I think Navy will win.
I think Navy will win too. But I honestly have not watched a whole lot of Navy and Army film. I don't really love the
Really? You're not crunching that late night film?
1960s like triple option offense. It's not really what I tune
Green Bay
into.
Power Sweep.
Yes, Green Bay Power Sweep. I'm gonna pick Navy though. Probably just because my brother's looking to go to the Naval Academy. So.
Oh, there you go.
Alamo Bowl. We've got Washington and Texas. That's going to be a really, really good one. Just wanted to put you guys on that. If, not all of Texas's players decided to transfer before then.
Right.
We're currently looking at the Bijan Robinson. I'm actually going to step out for a bit and focus on the draft, but then we're also worried about the Xavier Worthy transfer noise.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. There's a pretty good UTSA and Troy game coming up here on the 16th that I thought about, but let's just get to the New York Six. Let's get to the New York Six. For the Orange Bowl, this, in my opinion, is the worst bowl game of the year. Tennessee versus Clemson. You know, Clemson looked good against UNC, but we also got to remember it's UNC. Tennessee is without Hendon Hooker, so they're basically missing their life and soul on this entire team. I'm going to go ahead and pick Clemson. Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to give any stats because there's so much variance of the rosters
So
here.
much, yeah.
So many transfers, so many guys opting out for the NFL.
Literally everything could be different tomorrow.
Yeah, everything could be different tomorrow. I actually disagree. I think this will be a really good game, actually, though.
Really?
I do think this will be a really good
You know
game.
what? You know what I forgot to think about is DJ Uyunglele decided to transfer, so
Right.
this is going to be Klubnik.
The
in
Kate
this game.
Klubnik show.
But I honestly like him more, so
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
we'll see.
Did you get that name correct?
DJ Uyunglele?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Is that-
Really?
That was
Okay,
perfect, yeah.
Impressed.
That's why I'm the host,
Very
folks. That's
cultured
why I'm the
man.
host.
Yeah. So it'll be the Kate Klubnik versus, I think, Joe Milton show.
Oh my
And
God!
People forget that Joe Milton just lit up Vandy. Now, typically saying that, oh, it's Vandy. Vandy did just beat Florida and Kentucky back to back. So this is not the worst Vandy team in the world. And Joe Milton lit them up. So I actually think I'd pick Tennessee in this game.
Really?
Very slightly, though. I mean, I think this will be a really good game.
So as an
Honestly.
Ohio State fan, show off the Ohio State sweatshirt real quick. They did make the playoff.
Yes, they did. We'll talk about that in a minute.
So as an Ohio State fan, you at some point had to have watched Joe Milton film at Michigan.
Yeah.
His overthrows put Quinn Ewers
Oh,
to
so
shame.
it's hilarious. And
He's-
JJ McCarthy, too. But
Yeah,
people
he's-
aren't talking about that right now. But yeah.
He is literally
His arm is crazy. He's got
Yeah,
a
but it's-
crazy, inaccurate.
exactly.
arm, but
He's
he
so
can-
inaccurate.
He can slang it, though. That's for darn sure.
I'm disagreeing. I'm going Clemson, but I like the controversy. This is the second worst game in my opinion, and it sucks because the Rose Bowl is supposed to be special. I mean, last year in the Rose Bowl, your Ohio State Buckeyes and Utah, that was a hell of a game. That was the best game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best one. It was nice. They had the roses on like all the
Yeah.
uniforms and everything. Jackson
Mhm.
Smith and Jigba. That's when he really put the world on notice. This year it's Utah again, arguably in my opinion a less fun team, and Penn State, who is the most overrated two-loss team in all of America. Who did they play? No other ranked.
No, they
They
didn't.
beat
No.
unranked
But they-
opponents.
They beat the brakes off of everyone else that they did play, though. And what else are they supposed to do?
Oh,
mean,
I didn't know that.
There's a
I
lot
didn't
of
know
other
that breaking
10-2
the.
There's a lot of other 10-2 teams out there who struggled against some teams that they did not deserve to struggle
Okay, but those
Penn
other
State,
teams.
at the very least, I'm not saying they're a great team, but at the very least, they went out and pummeled everyone that wasn't named Michigan or Ohio
If you
State.
pummel Iowa and Indiana, you don't get any points.
Some
from
teams-
it. You're supposed to.
Some teams, Michigan, didn't pummel Iowa or
That's true.
Indiana.
Yeah, but you guys struggled against
So-
Northwestern, so you could say the same argument.
Well, it was rainy.
Oh no,
hurricane,
weather.
Injured running backs.
I'm gonna go with Utah on this one. The fact that Penn State was in this one, I just think that we got robbed of something really special between. I believe now, say USC beats Utah. Obviously, USC goes to the playoff instead, but then that makes it Washington. Correct in this game, it could have been a Washington and
Mhm.
Ohio State matchup.
Yeah.
Final score 77-70.
Yes,
Like that
probably.
that would have been amazing. But
Yes.
now we get Utah and Penn State, which all right.
I'm going to disagree with you again. I think Penn State's going to win
Are
this
you
game. I
kidding?
think Penn State's going to win this game. Yeah, I do.
Jeez, this guy's picking all the
I'm just gonna-
upsets. All right.
I'm just going to go on Penn State because you were hating on them, and I think. But which, by the way, speaking of this game, if you would have told me, almost a year ago at this point, that would be the last game that Jackson Smith and Jigba would play like fully in an
Yeah.
Ohio State uniform, I probably would have cried, and I want to cry
Yeah.
just saying it right now. Because
I
that
know.
dude, because he's obviously a stud. He's probably going to be a first round pick. And to think that that was the last time he ever got to show off. I mean, it was a good last game. I mean, he broke record on a record on a
Yeah.
record, but it's sad. It's sad. But I'll
Yeah,
go-
it's sad we got robbed of something.
yeah.
It was like the stock was up here at the end of the year, and you just expected to keep on rising after this year. But then it was like just going to constantly struggle with injuries. So
Yeah.
in the Cotton Bowl, we have USC versus Tulane. There's going to be a lot of talk during the Heisman circles of well, is Caleb Williams the Heisman? And they're
Right.
going to go Duggan thing.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like total Caleb Williams to just, I think, does it get announced before then? I believe it does, correct?
Yeah, it gets announced before that.
Okay,
for sure.
but I really think that he goes out there and he proves those doubters, like, and maybe it's Max Duggan, maybe it's CJ Stroud, whatever.
Mhm.
I think he really goes out there and he's like, I'm going to beat the brakes off Tulane. I think USC wins by like 40 plus. Like, honestly, Tulane is not that good. They struggle against way worse teams. USC's offense is going to dominate. Caleb Williams is going to dominate, if healthy.
Mhm. Yeah,
So I'm going to pick USC.
that's the only thing I would say is there's reports saying he's not even going to play this game, which if he doesn't, I think Tulane has a shot to pull the upset. I really do. I mean, and one thing you got
That's honestly, okay.
one thing you got to think about in bowl season, which is why I think the Orange and Rose Bowl are both going to be really good games, is these are teams that have been out of the picture for a minute, and they're both going to like want to be there. And
That is true.
Want to play in these games. Tulane's the only team here that actually like wants to play the Cotton Bowl,
That's
wants
true.
to be in this game. So if Caleb Williams doesn't play, which I'm assuming he won't, honestly, then I think they have a shot to pull the upset. I mean, USC is very, talk about us being soft. USC is like,
Well,
sharp and ultra
their
soft.
defense is exactly what everybody thinks their defense is.
yeah, it is.
And, yeah, I somewhat agree, but you made that point of, like, teams caring. You know who's going to care? Cam Rising and the Utes.
Yeah,
That's why they're going to beat
so
Penn
is Penn
State.
State.
But, where's Sean Clifford? We already moved on from that game. Sugar Bowl, Bama versus Kansas State. This one's fun. Because Bama's going to have a lot of doubters. Saban's going to have whatever. They've already had like 9 players in for the transfer portal.
Mhm.
So that's something to keep your eye on. I don't even know if Bryce Young's going to have a good receiver at his helm. With
Mhm.
Trayshawn Holden transferring, 2 other guys transferring.
Mhm.
Granted, Bryce Young's still on this team. Well, that's actually the question. Do you think Bryce Young would
He might
transfer?
opt.
He might opt out.
And just,
See,
yeah,
none of this even matters, folks.
Yeah.
None of what we're talking about
Mhm.
really matters.
right.
That's actually wrong. You should keep on listening.
Yeah,
But
keep on listening, please.
Will Howard, for the backup for Kansas State, he'll definitely want to keep on playing.
He's a stud. Yeah,
And he's a stud. I like him. You think Deuce Vaughn will probably play?
probably.
This
yeah.
guy's
Yeah.
what? He's gonna opt out to be a 6th round draft pick.
No, yeah, this is his shot to go against Bama.
Exactly.
He'll probably take advantage of that.
Exactly. So we'll have to see with all of the Bama opt outs and stuff like that. But well, now honestly, it's making me want to pick Kansas State because I honestly think so many
You should.
players. I'm picking Kansas State this
Yes.
one. Bama's gonna have a lot of those.
Good.
I guess I just look at them objectively. If all their players end up playing and Bryce Young decides to play for whatever reason, Bama will win. But I'm gonna pick Kansas State ahead of that.
How many times has Bama lost the Sugar like in a bowl game in a while?
Well, they don't make the playoff. They don't do very. Do you remember the game? It
Yeah.
was in 2013 after the kick 6 against Auburn, when Trevor Knight
Okay.
in Oklahoma
I'll have
beat
to
him.
really.
Yeah, Trevor Knight in Oklahoma beat him in the Sugar Bowl.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they
That was one of
don't,
the coolest games of all time.
when they're not motivated, they
True.
definitely
And
don't.
that's the thing. And Kansas State's gonna have all the motivation in the
They
world
will.
in this game,
They will.
regardless. Like, oh my
It's
gosh.
a Kansas State spot. It's just like I said last week. It's
Can we
Kansas
just
State
say this too? If we had a 12-team playoff right now, Kansas State would be a dangerous team. They'd be an extremely dangerous team.
spot.
You-
Okay.
You disagree with that?
Well, I don't necessarily disagree. It's like we talked about parity a lot this year with
Mhm.
like people. The big complaint why everybody needed a playoff is because we needed more parity and everything. But like if we look at a 12-team playoff right now, Penn State and Tulane are in that playoff. I don't like that at all. So if you're saying Kansas State's a dangerous team compared to those, absolutely. But I mean I could see a Kansas State upsetting in say Ohio State maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a Bama, even if they're motivated. Like Kansas State's not going to go down without a fight, but yeah, I don't know. For the most part, yeah, okay, no, I go with 3 because they have that offensive firepower. Chris Kleiman's a good coach. They always have a very solid defense. They have that one defensive lineman who's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy that take.
Okay.
I'll buy that
All right.
take.
Here we go.
So now we have the playoff, the fun stuff. In case, for anybody who doesn't know, Georgia is the 1 seed. They will be playing the 4-seeded Ohio State Buckeyes, who got in after USC lost in the Pac-12 championship game.
Thank you, Kyle Whittingham.
That's just perfect Kyle Whittingham spot. And then in the Fiesta Bowl, we have number 2 seeded Michigan versus number 3 seeded TCU. Despite, I'm honestly surprised they even put TCU in there because the voters would love to put Alabama in there
Mm-hmm.
over a team that didn't win. But you can't punish a team that just made the conference championship game and just happened to lose because they eventually have to fall out of gas. And it was an overtime game, too. I guess the first game we kind of want to talk about real quick is Georgia versus Ohio State. Georgia is the much better team. I'm going to pick Georgia.
Yeah.
I did like this situation, though, because Ohio State is the one team that does have the offensive firepower to potentially, Ohio State's not going to be scared in a game. They're Ohio State.
Yeah.
Like if TCU played Georgia, they'd be like, we're just the Horned Frogs. What the hell are we going to do?
Yeah.
But I think Ohio State shows up. I think they keep it close for a good amount of time, but I inevitably do think that Georgia wins this one.
Yeah, if you'd have told me before the year that we made the playoff, I'd have been happy regardless. But the way that we got here is certainly not the way you want to. Not only losing to that team up north, but losing Jackson Smith and Jigba basically the whole season. He's not playing in the Peach Bowl. When I found out he wasn't playing, that kind of lowered my confidence. I'm actually probably going to go with you and pick Georgia. Obviously, I'm going to be rooting my butt off for Ohio State in this game.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I think gives us a little bit of hope is the fact that we saw LSU last week. They did throw it around on them.
Yeah.
They did throw it around.
They
Jay
did.
Daniels had a pretty good game. Those receivers
They did.
were knifing up that Georgia secondary. So if there is any hope, that's it. Hopefully Ryan Day stops doing all this bubble screen stuff that he's been trying all season. It hasn't really worked that well all season.
You mean Ryan, born on third third base
Yeah.
day?
Well, I'm
Okay.
starting to think that now too. I mean, we'll see, but
I always thought that.
well, but I think that is the little bit of hope, and hope that Stetson Bennett just is what we think he is on the inside. Hopefully.
It's just so annoying. It's so annoying.
It's
to
so
see
annoying,
him
and
be
and I was thinking to myself, like, if we didn't end up getting a free spot and playing Michigan, what would be my motivation to like hate Georgia and like really want to beat them? And Stetson Bennett.
Stetson Bennett.
He's
for
become
sure.
he's not the sympathetic figure anymore.
No.
Like he's been there for a while. He's kind of got a little bit of
For
swag.
8 years.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of swag to him, which if you're a Georgia fan, you love that. If you're an opposing team,
You want to just beat him so badly.
Yeah.
So I'd love to beat Georgia. I'd love to crush Stetson Bennett and send him back to Walmart where he's going to bag groceries the rest of his life. So
100%
Yeah.
correct.
yeah.
Rough.
I
Well,
like it,
it's
Jordan.
just-
I like it. Bring out the fire.
We bring the truth on this podcast, and I'm just going to tell everyone the truth at home. Stetson Bennett will be bagging groceries somewhere next year. Give me Georgia. Unfortunately, I just think that we're just not going to be ready for that kind of talent, and I don't know how. I don't know what our answer outside of C.J. Stroud, finding Marvin Harrison Jr. 3 or 4 times is going to be in a tight situation, and I think we'll enter that situation several times, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to have Keely Ringo
Yeah.
planted on him
Yeah.
with Malachi Starks looking back
Yeah,
over his shoulder as
They've
the
got
safety.
they've got dudes
They've
on that
got
defense.
real
Yeah.
D-backs on that. So, and then this one, I honestly think a lot of people are just like, mail it in for Michigan and Georgia in the championship. TCU is unlike any team Michigan has played this year. It's a Big 12 team. Granted, there were definitely some holes in TCU's defense, especially in the run game. You saw Deuce Vaughn really cut it up on him. I don't know if you saw that cut that he
Yeah,
had and
that
just
was
put that dude
ridiculous.
on his
Yeah.
butt.
Mhm.
That was a really, really good play. I'm going to pick Michigan in this one. I'm going to go with the Michigan and Georgia championship. But I think there's some real potential here for TCU. Max Duggan is unlike anybody that Michigan's played. I mean, think of who Michigan's played. Like, C.J. Stroud does not run.
He does not have
He
that
does,
dog in
he
him.
does not have that dog in him. Sean Clifford doesn't have that dog in him.
Mhm.
Connor Bazelak doesn't have that dog in him.
Mhm.
Spencer Petras. These aren't running QBs.
No.
Max Duggan runs like a 4.7, and he runs it like he lowers his head. He will put Mike Sainristil on his ass at least one time.
Yeah.
So I think TCU's got a real shot this one. I don't think they can pull it out because I think Michigan's just too good, and they just have too many solid weapons. Now, do you know, is Blake Corum's going to play in this game, right?
No, he's done.
Really?
He's done the whole year. He had
For
knee
the whole-
surgery. Yeah,
oh,
he's
he had
done.
surgery. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, he's done. Now, with that being said, I think Edwards is
No,
good.
Edwards is
I think
just
Edwards
as
might
good.
be better.
Yeah,
Edwards.
Edwards is just as good.
He's
And
incredible.
I like Stokes as a backup, so I don't think that necessarily really changes things, but I'm going to pick Michigan. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Michigan too.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
gross. Someone clip that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I have to be. We try to be right here. We're not gonna. I'm not just gonna throw my fandom in people's faces. I will say they are susceptible to the deep ball, and their D line isn't like as incredible. If you watch that Ohio State game, our O line was pushing them around for most of the game. Just
They did.
like people may not. Obviously the score may
No,
not.
Michigan's D
reflect that.
line, you're right. Michigan's D
But-
line is not what they were
yeah.
last year. That's for
And so yeah, we were pushing them around, but here's the thing though. I don't know if TCU has the ability to do that. With Quentin Johnson, obviously they'll probably hit on a couple deep balls early on, and Michigan just, why do they struggle in first halves? Have you noticed that every single game they really struggle in first halves? They were down at half to us, 14-13 against Purdue. Probably should have lost to Illinois. They were down in that game for a majority of the time. Indiana struggled, tied at 10-10.5. I could go on and on because that's how many times it's happened to them this year. So it's going to be interesting. If TCU can get out to a big lead in this game and force Michigan to throw, then they might have a shot to pull this upset. The problem is nobody's been able to force Michigan to throw yet this season. Not even we could force them to throw. So it'll be interesting. I would give the slight edge to Michigan because I think eventually they're probably going to wear them out and probably be able to push them around in that third and fourth quarter, like they've done all year. They just wear teams out eventually. And now you kind of do have to respect that passing game. It's not great, but if you rush 8 guys, I mean, someone's going to be wide open, and McCarthy has shown that he can hit those guys. So it'll be a fun playoff, man. I'm looking forward to it.
I like that you brought that up because it is definitely 2 teams that come out in the second half. I mean, that was the big thing. That was the big question everybody had about TCU this entire year was, they got to come back in all these big games.
Yeah.
And so it's like.
But they kept doing it.
Yeah, they kept on doing
it. Yeah, you're right. Like both of these teams, second half teams, the 2 best second half teams.
It's going to be a total points, 20 points scored in the first half, and then it's going to be 65 in the second one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's enough on college football. We talked for forever about it. We're excited. It's bowl season. It's
the
bowl
best
season.
time of year. I'm still in awe of the Charmin Ultra Soft reference that Jordan mentioned.
USC football.
Great.
Most Lincoln Riley teams are like that.
Perfect reference.
Charmin Ultra Soft.
I loved it.
Yeah.
But
let's hear about the NFL.
The NFL stuff. I have been loving the lineups for games recently, and I love the lineups for games this week specifically. But talking about last week, the Packers beat the Bears. We were at UW for that game. That was very enjoyable for the usual fourth quarter meltdown that the Bears always have against the Packers. Justin Fields had a fourth quarter meltdown, 2 picks in that one. I loved it. Again, Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. I could go on and on.
Well, it's nice that you're respectful, to a very hard Bears fan.
Just pointing out, I have to do it twice a year, every year. Just saying. I went 3-4 this week. Oh yeah, and something else to mention. Just wanted to point it out. We are the winningest team in NFL history, 757 compared to the Bears' 756 wins. Just had to point it out there. But yeah, like I said, winningest team in NFL history, just had to point it out. My other pick, I picked the Eagles to blow out the Titans. Derrick Henry was stuffed all game. And then my Niners, why did I say that? The Niners beat the Dolphins. I picked the Niners, that's why I said mine, I guess.
They are your dad.
Brock Purdy.
Yeah, that's true.
Shut up. Whatever. Brock Purdy came in for that game, had 2 touchdown passes. He did his job, but that was ultimately against the defense. That's why they won that game. They kept the Dolphins limited to just 17 points. I mean, what more could you ask for? And Nick Bosa seems to be ruling the day. I think there's a potential argument that he could be Defensive Player of the Year, but I want to say he has like 15 sacks in the year so far. I don't know if that's correct.
Not sure.
Something around that number, but
he's a stud.
He is a stud, even though I hate him. But the Bengals beat the Chiefs again. I picked the Chiefs. I just thought that they were going to get their revenge against the Bengals, but man, Joe Burrow just seems to have his number. I mean, and it wasn't even Joe Burrow did fine that game, but it wasn't even because of Joe Burrow. That Cincy defense and the O-line kept him protected enough. He was only sacked at 1 time, so I mean that was interesting to see. That's unlike the Bengals to have a performance like that against a good Chiefs team. So I'm 31 from 42 on picks this year for 73.81%. That's why I was flaming you for your picks.
All right, buddy.
Now, we'll get to that later.
You just picked the favorites, buddy.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that later too.
Maybe he does, but 31-11 is like, I mean, that's really freaking good. Like, I have to admit that. That's pretty.
Eagles and Giants are playing this week.
Eagles and Giants are playing this week. I think a lot of teams. I think a lot of people are picking the Giants in this one just because they're thinking that the Eagles might turn out to be the Steelers.
He's trying to switch the narrative.
Yeah.
He's trying to switch the
So
narrative.
Hold on.
Actually, I'm in a way I'm picking the upset because
get out of here. I am not picking the upset in this. I'm gonna go Eagles, but I think a lot of people are thinking that it's just the Eagles' time to lose a game or two, or just go on a losing streak, just like the Steelers did a couple years back.
That's definitely what they're thinking.
Yeah, whatever.
Good pick. I agree.
Well, so
I
what would
agree.
you pick?
I would pick the Eagles. I'm just saying.
Then don't flame me.
I'm just saying you're pulling this whole thing out of your butthole here.
Do you want something to back you up, Joey?
I do want something.
Okay, so my stats are red hot in 2022. We were 16-7-1 in the NFL. Went 3-0 the last time I was here. The Eagles. Oh, well, actually, this doesn't back you up. The Eagles are only 3-6 against the spread as a road favorite since the beginning of last season. So this is a giant spot. Maybe we can get an upset, get that CPP closer to Coles, have a little fight to the finish as we go to the end here. I don't know. I'm just trying to hop on whatever narrative.
I just think you're a little butthurt, Cole, or something.
That doesn't even make any sense. The Jets and Bills are
Little
playing this
butthurt.
week. The Jets and Bills are
Hold
playing this
on,
week.
I'm not done. I just think you're a little butthurt, but I don't think the Giants will be able to game plan against Jalen Hurts, his rushing ability. They weren't able to against Lamar earlier in the year, even though they did win that game. But I just think it'll be pretty difficult against probably one of the top rushing attacks. I want to say, if not the number one rushing attack in the NFL. I got Eagles 30, Giants 23. Jets and Bills. Now here is where I'm gonna get back at you for picking favorites because I am going Jets in this one. I think Mike White, he has been fine, at least these past 2 weeks. It was against the Bears. But playing against the Vikings last week, those two picks were both like the receiver's fault, basically. I mean, it bounced off the receiver's hands earlier. I think it was that first drive of the game. And then there was just perfect coverage on that final drive of the game later. Mike White is the real deal, at least lately. And I feel like he could keep it going against the Bills, to be honest. They have fast weapons that I just think are hard to game plan against for the Bills defense. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. I would even go to say Braxton Berrios, but he's not the greatest receiver in the world. Everyone knows that.
He's all right.
He is just a tough as nails dude. If you saw some of that game film, he like dove to the line of, I don't want to say line of scrimmage, the touch. Cut this.
Dove to the goal.
Dove to the goal line. He dove to the goal line for a touchdown, missed it, then just immediately went for the QB sneak. Was pushed in there for the touchdown late in that game to keep them in it. He does not care about your fantasy team. He just wants that win. I love him just so much. I think the Jets are. I would say Jets are wasting Mike White's prime right here. But if if I were to ask you which defense in this game has allowed less yards, I feel like most people would say that it's the Bills, but it's actually the Jets. They have been the ones. The defense has been the one keeping them in games most of the year. Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, those weapons on there have been really useful for them. And then the Jets also have a lot more turnovers than the Bills. I'm pretty sure they have 20.
You're saying they have less
the defense,
turnovers?
sorry.
The
I should
defense
explain.
is forced more turnovers.
Force more
Oh.
turnovers than the Bills this year. So I think that is going to play into this game, and that's why I'm picking the Jets. I think it's somewhat of a trap game. The Jets 24, Bills 21 in this one.
So the unstoppable force is meeting the immovable object here. My stats are going against Joey's very, very high correct pick percentage this week. The Jets are only 3-7 against the spread in divisional games, and since Robert Saleh took over at the beginning of last year, and obviously the Patriots are a thorn in their side. The Bills have also been a thorn in the Jets' side as well. So 0-2 for the stats today so far, Joey. You gotta get with the program, or maybe I have to get with the program. I don't know.
Something
The stats are what they are, though. I can't.
Something I do just want to mention: the Jets did beat the Bills earlier in the year.
That's why I'm going Bills here. I don't Revenge
spot.
game.
Yep.
Revenge game.
revenge game for
Fair.
Josh Allen.
I mean,
The Jets going 2-0 against a very good Bills team this year.
I'm
It's
not
gotta be
saying
tough.
the Jets are the better team. I'm just saying I think this is a perfect spot for the Bills to just lay an egg against the Jets.
No,
Yeah. And then I think the huge storyline is, oh my God, how did the Jets go 2-0 against the Bills? Or the Bills?
I like this year's Jets team. I mean, aside from
Right.
Zach Wilson, but they finally made that change. They made Mike White.
I like Mike White. Dolphins Chargers. I like this one. This was flexed to Sunday night.
Thank God.
Dolphins kind of laid an egg against the Niners, but I mean, it's a good Niners defense. It's going to happen against good defenses like that, but the Chargers, unfortunately, don't have a good defense. So
What do the Chargers do well?
Justin Herbert. That's about
really
it, pretty much. And then
Brandon
Austin Eckler.
Staley, fire Brandon Staley. I'm hitting the fire Brandon Staley button.
Yeah,
for this
their
offseason.
defense has underperformed throughout the season so far. They have, I think they have an even worse rush defense than the Green Bay Packers somehow. And I know how terrible their rush defense is this year, allowing the 360 rush yards against Jalen Hurts a couple weeks ago. But anyways, there's no reason for me to think that the Chargers defense is just going to come out there and, keep Tua in line, keep Tyreek, keep Waddle. And the rush defense is terrible, like I mentioned, so I'm pretty sure Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson are probably going to get. Not one of them is going to get a score, I would say. Get Herbert some help. He is throwing it over 42 times a game on average. He just needs better run blockers and some guys on the defensive end that are just going to play some ball. I mean, my goodness, they can't stop the run whatsoever. I'm sure Herbert's going to have to throw it almost 50 times a game in this one. So I'm going to pick Dolphins 33, Chargers 26.
The numbers are on your side in this one. If you guys remember a couple of weeks ago, the Chargers were playing the Chiefs at home, and the Chargers were the home underdog. And they gave the stat that the Chargers are one of 2 teams in the last 3 seasons that haven't won a game outright as a home underdog.
Remember, they were almost about to beat the Chiefs, but then the power of the stats came through. Patrick Mahomes in the last drive put the Chiefs ahead. And this one, so there's that. There's also a pro Dolphins stat. They have the 3rd best record in the NFL against the spread in conference games in the last few seasons. So that's a lot of information here. They are 19, 12, and 1 against the spread in those games.
In season? Wait, I'm confused by that stat.
The
Against the
Dolphins
spread in conference games
Yes.
this season?
No, in the last, since Tua became the quarterback, or since 2020.
Understood.
Mhm.
Understandable. Understood. That was dumb.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's
Pro
alright.
Dolphins stats back you up. Dolphins 33, Chargers 26. I think that's a pretty good prediction, honestly. And remember, Jalen Waddle was hurt for a majority of last week's game against the Niners as well. I think the Dolphins will bounce back.
Okay, so that'll be it for us with the I Told You So segment. That's also going to be us for a little while now. We got finals week coming up, so we unfortunately will have no pod coming up this next week, and then winter break hits, so I honestly can't really give a date. We'll put it on our Instagram if you guys go ahead and follow that. Please do give our Instagram a follow. It's at, what's it, insiDE?
Inside_sports 22.
Okay, yeah. So please go ahead and give that a follow. We really haven't shouted that out enough on the pod. But then also, if you're listening on YouTube, please be sure to give us a like and subscribe. And then also be sure to ring the bell. If you're listening on Spotify, please give us a like and a follow. That'll be it for Cole, Joey, and Jordan with the Inside Sports Podcast with the DE capitalized.